morning, scholars. It is Thursday, March 18th, 2021, and today we're going to be able to explain how the medieval manor functioned. So yesterday we talked about feudalism and knights and all of those interesting things. Um, or actually, we talked about that the other day. Yesterday you had a quiz. But today we're going to talk about specifically how the manor functioned and what that is. So we're going to have a quick do now. The do nows are actually going to be about 5 to 7 minutes, and then some notes, only a couple words today, guided practice, and then independent practice. Today is National Awkward Moments Day, so if you have an awkward moment with someone or in public or at home or anywhere, embrace it. Don't be scared of it. Those are life silly moments that we should laugh at and not be embarrassed by. All right, so what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you watch this quick video. It's called The Middle Ages in 3 Minutes. It's pretty good. It kind of ties together everything that we've been talking about for the past couple months and how that leads up to the Middle Ages, and then some things that we're talking about now and some things that we can look forward to speaking of, or learning about in the future. But for this video, the expectation is that you watch it and then you jot down 5 facts from the video. So any 5 facts. So when you're ready, you can pause and watch your video called The Middle Ages in 3 minutes. All right, so we're actually not going to go over the 5 facts because there's so many facts that it would take the whole class time to go over them from the video. But I'm look forward to seeing and checking which facts that you jotted down. So the first word we have today is called manor, and it's not manners like I have good manners, I say please and thank you. This is an estate or a piece of land that a medieval lord has, and typically these manors were granted to the lords by a king, saying, "Here, take this land, now run it," essentially. And so, sorry, my eyes are watering. That is, we're gonna break down what a manor more specifically consists of in a couple minutes. And then our second word is a serf, and this should be a review word for you. These are peasants that are legally bound to a lord's manor and land. They are not slaves. Okay? They might kind of sound like they are, but they're not. I have 2 videos for you today. Both of them are from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. The first one is called The Taunting Frenchman, where King Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table or whatever show up to a castle, and the knight that is in charge of the manor in the or of the lord's castle in the manor is basically like teasing them and giving them a hard time. And then the serf one, this is called Repressed Citizen, and this is also from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. This is actually on the way to see the Taunting Frenchman, where King Arthur and his leagues run into these serfs, and the serf goes on for about 5 minutes or 3 to 5 minutes about how he's repressed and how society is built to keep him quiet and go against him. So if you're very into like, he's making fun of the feudal system essentially. But the Taunting Frenchman is like one of my favorites. If you like to see like things getting thrown over a castle, such as a cow or a chicken, you definitely want to check that out. And if you are in class with me, we will be watching both of these. All right, so this is just the layout of a manor for the most part. So you can see we have the manor house, which is going to be up here. This is going to be where the Lord lives. So this is your castle, basically. Then 2, you have the peasant field workers. So we see over here in this field, the peasants are working. Then we have the mill, and that's where they grind wheat into grain. So that's how you're going to get your grain for bread. And then 4, we have our find it. Our sheep. I don't see our sheep, but that's okay. Oh, they're right here. And then our peasant house is 5. So these would be the homes that the peasants would live um, in the village. And then every village always had its own church. And then they grew their own vegetables. And then 8 is a well, and that's where you would get your water from. They did not have running water, so you had to go to a well and get it from underground. This is just another layout of a manor. So again, we see the Lord's manor here. The church is a little bit bigger here. The priest's house. We have the mill again, a garden again, and then you have the serfs' houses. This actually also has a blacksmith in it. That would be a metal worker, so someone who makes goods out of metal. And then you have the Lord's oven. So this is where, in this particular village, the baking would happen. And if you notice, there's it says it says field 3 and fallowed 1, fallow, and field 2 planted. Fallow means it's empty. So what thing they did was they had to rotate the field so that the ground, the dirt, wouldn't get worn out and not be able to grow any plants. So they rotated every season. So they always had 2 fields that were planted and 1 that was fallow or resting, essentially. And so we'll talk about that more later. It's actually called the 3-field system. So we're going to go ahead and start guided practice. The heart of the medieval economy was the manor, or the agricultural estate of a medieval lord. Manors were centered around the lord's house or castle. In addition to the lord's house, a manor usually included 1 or more villages and the surrounding fields and forests. Peasants made up the majority of the medieval population. Most people who lived and worked on a manor were peasants, and many of these peasants were serfs, or peasants who were legally bound to the land. Serfs were not slaves who could be bought and sold, but they were not free. They could not leave the manor without permission, and if the manor was given to another lord, the serfs went along with it. So typically, I say typically and essentially all the time. If a lord got assigned to a different village or a different castle and he up and left, the serfs stayed at the manor that they were at. They came, it was like if you buy a house and they came with it. And so they did not leave with the lord. They didn't travel with the lord or go with him. They just stayed at that manor. And again, serfs were not slaves because they weren't bought and sold. But again, they weren't free. They were legally bound to that land. So go ahead and pause, and we're answering these 3 questions. What was the center of the medieval economy? What was the difference between a serf and a slave? And what do you think serfs thought about life on a manor? Number 3 is going to be an opinion question. I'm curious to see what you write. All right, so question number 1, what was the center of the medieval economy? That would be the manor. If you weren't sure on where to find that answer, you're going to see that in the very first sentence of the first paragraph. If I wasn't sure, I could always look for the bold letter man or bold word manor, and it's highlighted as well. And the answer or the prompt to the question is right surrounding that word. What was the difference between a serf and a slave? Down here, serfs were not legally bound to the Lord's land, or they were legal. Ooh, that would be bad. Serfs were legally bound to the Lord's land, but they were not bought or sold. And then again, number 3, what do you think serfs thought about life on a manor? This is an opinion question. I'd like to see what you think, or if even put yourself in their shoes. If you were a serf, how would you think about life on a manor? You can use this. You can use maybe some thoughts you had during the Monty Python clip. But what do you think life would be like, or what the serfs thought about life on a manor? Clearly, in the Monty Python clip, the peasant is not happy. So for independent practice, you will basically just read about life on the manor and managing the manor. So how a manor ran. Then what you have is a little bit of document analysis. You have a quote here, and then a multiple choice question to answer that you use the document to answer these questions. Same here, document B, you use the quote to answer number 2. And you'll just put your letters in the box. And then using those 2 documents, I want you to answer this question for extended thinking. So this is kind of like a mini DBQ. Well, it is a mini DBQ. How did medieval kings and lords use their power? So you want to go back to this slide and use these documents to help you answer the question, how did medieval kings and lords use their power? And then you are all done. So make sure you fill out your attendance form if you haven't, and you're meeting the turn-in checklist. I mention the turn-in checklist every day, but people still aren't restating the question. They're still not starting with a capital letter, and they're still not ending with a period, which means they're not getting 10 points. So make sure you take 5 milliseconds and put a dot at the end of your sentence and hit the shift button once at the beginning, and then you will not lose points for those things. All right, see, we will come back together tomorrow where we'll start talking about the Crusades, which are basically a bunch of wars by the Catholic Church to spread Christianity and gain more land for the Christian church. All right, thanks and have a wonderful day.